Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Heavily Biased Talks College Football. Today we're going to be going over the Week 11 slate of college football games. We got 5 on our main slate and then whichever games we add after that. So Justin's joining me again today. Justin, how's it going, man?
Going pretty good.
We both had pretty good weeks last week. So I went 7-3-2. And you went 9-5-1.
So I mean, I just keep
good.
putting together weeks like that. So
I mean,
that was a good week for both of us. But I got my lock of the week.
That's true.
You were fooled by that Nebraska. You were fooled by the Nebraska.
I was fooled by that speech.
Yeah.
Yep. I really was.
I was too. I bought in.
God dang it. All right, so let's talk a second. I want to go over quickly. The college football playoff rankings came out week 2. Just go over quickly. Georgia number 1, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Washington, Texas, Alabama, Oregon, Ole Miss, and Penn State. Actually, that's mine. Sorry, that's mine. So theirs is Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Washington. What is it? Oregon. Yeah, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Penn State. So for me, I have a lot of the same stuff they do, but I think Georgia beating a good team last week. I put them back up on top. They're number 1. Ohio State 2, and then I keep seeing that everybody has Oregon ahead of Texas. And we talked about it a little bit on Saturday, that I do think that, to me, the most dangerous team is Oregon. I just think they look unstoppable at times. But if we're going to go on resumes and what teams have done, I don't see how you can put Oregon ahead of Texas, at least at this point. What do you think about that?
If I was to pick the teams right now, I'd have Oregon 1 spot ahead of Texas, only because we're not healthy. But you can only go
and
they shouldn't be voting like that. But
and maybe that's what they're doing, is they're saying right now, right this second, they're ahead of them because Quinn is out. And if that's Texas, the case, then fine.
And Texas had 3 ranked wins. I'm not sure how many ranked wins. I mean, again, Colorado was a ranked win, but we'll see how that win looks at the end of the season. That's not like a quality win anymore.
Well, I don't think Colorado wasn't ranked when they played them, because Oregon only has 1 win over a team that has a winning record, and that's Utah.
Colorado was for sure ranked when they played.
I'll keep going. I'll look it up.
The hype train was just so high. I truly think Colorado was undefeated and they were for sure ranked. Now Utah's their highest ranked opponent that they've beaten, but maybe I'm just completely off. But I could have sworn that they were undefeated and ranked. But, I mean, regardless, I think Oregon, I picked Oregon to be in the championship game in my preseason.
Yeah, so at the time they were ranked. I guess what they're saying is they haven't beat a team that currently has a winning record. They've only beaten 1 team that currently has a winning record. Okay, so you were right. I was right. We were all, I got you.
Yeah, so I don't know what Colorado was at the time. I feel like they were top 20.
They were 19.
Yeah, so that's not a quality win anymore. I mean, it is to me just because of how good Oregon looked that game. The Washington loss is a good loss. That's a great loss. So Oregon's got a great loss. Texas has a good loss. I don't think Texas's loss is looking great anymore. It depends on how Oklahoma finishes the season. But I think at the end of the season, if both teams, I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, the Pac-12 is arguably the best conference in college football this year. I think the Big 12 is down this year, but I still think it's a solid league. That's the only. My thinking is this: if Texas wins out, and Oregon wins out, I feel like both teams are going to get in. Like that's kind of my thinking. I don't see a scenario where I feel like Washington's going to drop a game. Again, I'm kind of getting into speculation. So let's just do this. Based on the information right now, I'm not upset that Oregon's ahead of Texas. Like I truly look at them as like equal teams. I think they're both in the same caliber of teams. Again, I picked them both to be in the playoff at the beginning of the year. I still think that's going to happen. And but Texas got to get healthy. I mean, Oregon right now is looking like the most dangerous team outside of that like top four. I mean, to me, I think that Oregon is surging right now, and so we'll see.
Yeah, so I mean, right now there's 5 Pac-12 teams that are in the top 25, and there are 5 Big 12 teams. The only difference is you have 2 kind of teams that are right at the top, and OU has fallen off now. So, and that's another thing that I think could hurt Texas a little bit is they don't have a chance to avenge that loss right now. It doesn't look like OU is going to get back to the Big 12 championship. So, but again,
I would
most of
argue
the time, I mean,
the Alabama win is the single best win maybe of any team this season on the road
and
at
it's
Alabama.
Looking, yeah,
yeah,
I agree. Yeah, and
so
I think it just keeps looking better and better.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Oregon's going to have plenty of opportunity. Like I said, USC's on their schedule, but USC like that's a game they have to win now. So now you're in that weird scenario where if Texas drops any of these games, obviously they're out. If Oregon drops any of these games, they're out. Washington's the only team with any type of wiggle room, and you know if they don't lose and they get to the Pac-12 championship game and they play Oregon, you know, it's going to be bizarre. I mean, I think that the best thing that could happen is, you know, Michigan's been destroying everybody. They haven't played anybody is the problem. So we still don't know, and at least I don't know how truly good Michigan is yet. I think that Florida State, I told you last week, I thought Florida State was the number 1 team in the country. I don't even know if I believe that anymore after the performance. So it's one of those weird things, man. I don't know. I do think it's going to find a way to work itself out because I'm a strong believer in a team is going to drop a game. We saw it with Notre Dame at Clemson. Like, nobody was really expecting that to go that way. But one of these teams are going to drop a game they shouldn't drop. Texas looked like they were about to be that team last week, and they had a miracle win. So maybe they dodged theirs. But a couple of these other teams are going to run into a game that they should not drop, and they drop it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's get into our picks. So I've got 5 games on the main slate, and then I've got 5 additional picks after that. So, so let's get into first off, Michigan at Penn State, the big one. Number 3 Michigan at number 10 Penn State. Man, they got to do something with big noon kickoff because the fact that this is a day game at 11 is just a tragedy, man. I mean, I just don't understand how they could how can they get away with this? I don't get it. But
I love the big
Penn State's
kickoff.
I know I do too, but they need to fix the thing where the game has to immediately proceed that. You know what I mean? Like I just College Game Day does it to where they'll do the game day and then the game is that night. They've done that numerous times, so hopefully they get that figured out. But all right, so Penn State is plus 4.5. The over/under is 44.5. I'll just start. I'm like you, man. The more I think about Michigan, I'm just like, man, they look really dominant at times. But again, who have they played? They haven't played anybody that I can sit there and think, man, that team's a pretty good team. I mean, mostly everybody's played somebody that like, okay, that's a good team. Michigan hasn't played anybody. And Purdue is terrible. They are so bad. And I feel like that's the way the Big Ten is mostly. Is there's just a bunch of really bad teams. So there's just something about this game, though. I feel like Michigan, with all of the surrounding noise and all of that, something just tells me that it's got to come to a head somewhere, and I think Penn State's going to pull off the upset. I think Penn State, being at home, they absolutely got dominated last year by Michigan, just got outmanned, and I think on the Josh Pate show. I think he said they ran for like 400 something yards on them. That I just can't imagine that happening again. I don't think Michigan is as explosive, and I don't think their running game is as good as it was last year. So give me Penn State to cover, and I would not be shocked if they win this game. In fact, I think they will, but I'll play it safe and just do the cover.
Yeah, look, I don't know how good Michigan is, but I know who Penn State is, and Penn State to me is just every year they get hyped up, and every year, and James Frank, I think he's a really solid coach. I almost said great coach, but that's the trick. That's the trick that like Penn State plays on you all the time, is like you think that you think they're great. Sometimes you're like, man, James Franklin's a great coach. They never win these big games, ever. Like, under James Franklin, they do not win these games. And I think Michigan has a chip on its shoulder. I think Michigan feels extremely disrespected right now. I think Michigan is going to go in there and dominate this game. Absolutely dominate it. And even if they do that, that's the crazy thing. I think the Big Ten is terrible this year. It's terrible. Even Ohio State, I think Ohio State is a top 15 team, but I don't think that Ohio State's even that good this year. So my problem is even if Michigan goes in there and does what I think they're going to do, which is dominate the game, win by multiple touchdowns, I don't know. I still am not going to know how good Michigan is, because I don't think Penn State's any good. I think Penn State was overhyped at the beginning of the year. The Big Ten is that conference that every year we have to deal with now. Michigan State and Ohio State probably on another collision course, probably in a scenario where, obviously they play at the end of the year. And I do not want to see I almost want Penn State to just be out of it. Because now if Penn State wins this game, now guess what? Now Penn State's in the conversation again. And we got this whole three-way tie thing. So I know there's a lot of people that want to see Michigan lose. I don't see it happening. I think Michigan's going to dominate the game. I think they're going to run all over Penn State. I think McCarthy's going to make throws that he needs to make. And I just don't see Penn State moving the ball against this Michigan defense. This Penn State offense, I just don't see it. I think Michigan is better in every phase except for maybe at wide receiver, or not maybe, at wide receiver than Ohio State. And Ohio State just dominated Penn State. So give me Michigan all day. I'm taking Michigan by 2 touchdowns.
Wow. All right. Next game up, Utah at Washington. Washington is minus 9.5, over under 51.5. This is another one of those sneaky games, man.
Can you repeat that one more time? You
Utah.
Yeah.
Okay, Utah at Washington, minus 9.5, over under 51.5. For me, this is another one of those sneaky games. Washington, even though they got the win last week against USC, again, did not look good. Their defense looked lost at times. And I feel like Utah is the Pac-12 K-State. Like, exactly what you're going to get every time you play Utah. They might not have the most talent, but they are going to give you their best shot every single time. They're not going to beat themselves. And I feel like Utah is in a really good spot here to pull off the upset. I feel like Washington has kind of been chugging along. They've kind of survived a couple of scares, but they are not playing their best football right now, and Utah is not a team you want to face when you're doing that. So give me Utah minus the 9.5 or plus 9.5. And again, this would not shock me if Utah goes in there and wins this game. I just, like you said, there's somebody's going to drop a game that they shouldn't. I feel like this is a perfect example of one that could happen. So give me Utah plus the 9.5, and would not be shocked if they come out of there with a win.
Yeah, what gets Utah beat is just for whatever reason, Utah seems to be ready for these type of games, and then they usually play down to their opponent. That's what I've seen this year. I think Utah, we saw what their strategy was against Caleb Williams. They made Caleb Williams extremely uncomfortable, made him throw a lot of interceptions. The difference is, I think Penix protects the ball a little bit better in terms of, like, he's not looking to make plays with it. Like, Caleb Williams does a lot of, like, trying to find ways to extend a play. I think Washington actually is going to get the ball out of Penix's hand quick, But I'm kind of like you. I definitely see a struggle here. I think 9.5 is an insane line. Like I think there's so much value here on Utah that I feel like this line's going to move close to 8.5, 8 by the time kickoff rolls around. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to be on Utah personally. I'm definitely taking Utah with the plus 9.5. I want to take the under, but I could see a defensive touchdown. I mean, we've seen it with Washington. We saw what Arizona State did. Washington couldn't even score an offensive touchdown that game. I don't know if they ended up scoring one, but if it was late, and I stopped watching.
I think they got a defensive touchdown.
Yeah, that's
it was
what I'm
15 to
saying.
7, I think. Yeah,
and I could see that happening again. I mean, Washington has shown. Look, Oregon, if they get beat, you're going to have to outscore Oregon. Oregon's going to put up points. Washington has shown that they can have offensive games, like off nights. And this is, to me, I'm kind of like you. This seems like the perfect recipe for an upset. I'm not willing to go out that far on it yet. But give me Utah plus 9.5, and I feel pretty confident about that. I think there's a ton of value there. I think this is going to be a great game. And again, this is just another. If Washington wins this game, now I think you need to be moving Washington up the rankings a little bit, because Washington now would have 2 great wins on their resume. So this is a big opportunity for both teams.
next game up, Tennessee at Missouri. Missouri is +1, over under 58.5. Missouri, they weren't able to string together enough drives to beat Georgia last week. I thought they gave a good effort. I thought they played pretty well. I just think Georgia's more talented than them. And again, they just didn't make the plays when they needed to. But I love Missouri in this spot. I really do. I think going back home, they still have everything. When they probably sat down and made their goals for the season, they probably thought they might be in a situation like this. So I think they have everything still in front of them. Tennessee had a cakewalk last week. Sometimes it's hard to bounce back after that, just because everything came so easy that you didn't really have to work hard for anything. So give me Missouri. I just think their offense is too strong. I think they've got one of the most balanced attacks in college football, with Schrader in the running game and then Burden and Cook in the passing game. So give me Missouri to win this one. And I'm really shocked that they're an underdog at home. And they're higher ranked than Tennessee, I believe. Not by much, by 1 or 2, but still. So
depending on the poll,
I really like.
They're right at 14 and 16. On the one I'm looking at right here, it says Missouri 16, Tennessee 14. But again, I'm with you, and I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just trying to answer your question.
No, you're good.
Yeah,
no, you're good.
I'm with you 100%. I love Missouri here. If I didn't have another lock of the week that I feel better about, that we'll get into with our bonus picks, I'd pick this one. Look, Missouri had a chance to beat Georgia last week. I mean, Missouri was in that game. This wasn't one of those things where, oh man, Georgia just played bad. No, Missouri belonged on the field with Georgia. And they showed exactly what we thought last week that they would show, that they were there to play. I'm telling you, Missouri is for real this year. I think this line reflects maybe, they're going to be a little down after that week, or maybe Missouri's not as good as I thought about. Absolutely not. I think Missouri, I'm not going to say it's a moral victory, but think about how far the program's come the past couple years, where they're probably pissed off that they let a win get away at Georgia. You know what I mean? Missouri's a tough place to play. I like the 230 kick. Missouri, I'm taking Missouri by a field goal here. I think it's going to be a hell of a game, but I love Missouri. I love the value there. Give me Missouri money line all day. And like I said, if it wasn't for another pick that I'm going to get into later, this would be my lock of the week. And give me the over as well. I think I'm going to add the over for this one, because I think Tennessee, I don't think their offense is great, but I could see a game that they might have to catch up a little bit with Missouri. I actually think Missouri's going to get out on them pretty early in the game, and I think Tennessee's going to have to play a little bit of catch up here. So, yeah, just to final it, Missouri money line, and give me the over.
All right, number 9, Ole Miss at number 2, Georgia. Georgia is -10.5. Over under is at 57.5. And this is the one that I went back and forth several times just because I just feel like Georgia's time is coming. That somebody's going to get Georgia at some point. I just don't know if it's Ole Miss. I don't know if they're built the way you need to be built to beat Georgia. But I do think this is a close. I think this is kind of like the Missouri game. I think it's a close game. Georgia puts together a couple of drives to kind of distance themselves a bit, and then it's a 2-possession game throughout the fourth quarter. So give me Georgia to cover. I do think Ole Miss is a good team, and I do think that they keep it close for most of it. But again, I just think Georgia, when you're that talented, you're going to have to really get outplayed at home, and I don't know if Ole Miss can do that. So give me Georgia minus 10.5.
Man, no respect for Ole Miss, huh?
No, I like Ole Miss. I just think that, again, I feel like there's a recipe for beating teams like Alabama and Georgia.
If
I
this
don't
game was
feel
at Ole
like
Miss,
Ole Miss is
what would
built
you
that
say?
way.
If this game was at Ole Miss, what
The same. The same.
So this isn't about being at home
I
field. You just think Georgia's much better?
Well, I just think that, it's why they're so successful in like the playoff games, and they're so successful for years is because most of the time they're just bigger on both sides of the ball and just more athletic at those spots. And I feel like that's why Texas was able to beat Alabama on the road. I feel like that's how you have to get them, is you have to be at least comparable in those spots. And I don't know that Ole Miss is. So I think it's a trench game, and I think that Georgia's better there. So yeah, I think Georgia will pull away late and, win by 13 or so.
I think people are going to be shocked with how I'm not going to say easily. I want to choose my words here. I think people are going to be shocked with how much, I can't think of another word for easily, but basically what I'm trying to get at is people are going to be shocked how well Ole Miss moves the ball against Georgia's defense. I guess that's the word I was looking for. They're going to be shocked how well they do it. And I'm taking Ole Miss money line here. I'm taking Ole Miss money line because this is, like we've talked about, I've been saying it all year. I've been trying to pick my spot with this game. I've been thinking, okay, what's a game? Even though this is a top 10 matchup, there's probably not a ton of people that think Ole Miss is going to go in there and steal one from Georgia. I think Ole Miss enters the conversation after this week as a dark horse contend. I mean, obviously, if they win this game, they catapult up the rankings. And I think Ole Miss matches up extremely well with this Georgia team. I don't think Ole Miss is better than Georgia, like, for the year. But the matchup, I think Ole Miss has got everything they need to do to pull off the upset. I think Jackson Dart's playing really good football. I think Junkins is going to run the ball really well. And I'm telling you, man, Georgia is going to have to score points in this game. And I think that if it does get, and I'm taking the over also, by the way. So I want to add that to the card. I think that Ole Miss has to get out to a fast start. Like, they have to. Like, and if they do, I think that takes Georgia. Georgia's been getting off to some slow starts a couple games this year, and they've obviously, turned it around the second half. But I actually think Ole Miss is going to control the game. I think Ole Miss is going to surprise a lot of people with how well they play. And give me Ole Miss by a touchdown. I really like this Ole Miss team. Every time I watch Ole Miss play, like every week, they seem to get better to me. And Georgia's getting better too, but Georgia, when I watch Georgia, I don't see that same, and I saw it with the Missouri game. Missouri gave them a lot of problems in certain aspects of the game. Missouri was able to capitalize with getting it to their playmakers a little bit, but they didn't do enough of that. I think Ole Miss has a great run game, and they have a quarterback that's not afraid to make the throws, and I think that he's going to make some really good throws, and I really quite like Ole Miss here.
Okay. I don't agree, but that's why we do the show. Who do you think's better, Ole Miss or Missouri?
If you would ask me this a week ago, I probably would have said Missouri. I think they're about equal. The thing that I'm going to give Ole Miss the edge on a little bit is that they've been in these games. These players have been in games like this. This is the first year Missouri's been in the hunt. Ole Miss, like we were talking about last week, Ole Miss is always trying to just be that third team in this SEC. They're just constantly trying to be right there, right where LSU, right where, historically Florida is. They're trying to always get right there. This is a great opportunity for Ole Miss to finally do it. Georgia's a little down this year, even though they're number one. Alabama's a little down this year, even though they're playing a lot better. So I'll say Ole Miss just because of the run game. I think Ole Miss Junkins is that good to where I could see him having a huge game. And if not, they're going to have to load the box. And I think Dart is just a really good quarterback. And I think he's going to make the plays he needs to make.
All right. Last game on the main slate, USC at number 6, Oregon. Oregon is minus 15, over under 73.5. Man, I know a lot of people, like, the popular thing now is to crush USC. They just fired their defensive coordinator. I'm not saying he wasn't part of the problem, but I don't think that's something you just fix by getting rid of the defensive coordinator. I heard somewhere that USC doesn't have a special teams coach. And if that's true, that blows my mind. But that also kind of shows where Lincoln Riley's focus is. I always feel like he doesn't pay attention to the little things, and that's why he gets beat in a lot of these big-time matchups. I think Oregon is going to crush USC. I don't think this is a Washington thing where they hang close and then Washington kind of pulls away a bit. I think Oregon is going to stomp USC. I don't think this is going to be a game for a second. I think that, you had the whole Caleb Williams and his mom thing. I just think, and I want to talk a little bit about the Caleb Williams thing in a second, but I'm taking Oregon and I'm taking the over because I think USC will put together a few drives, but they're not going to be able to stop Oregon from scoring. I just really don't think they are. They might score every single drive in this game, depending on, if they end up kicking field, they might go for it on a 4th and 5 and not get it or something, but they're going to move the ball freely in this game. And just quickly on the Caleb Williams thing, just some of the comments he makes after games is, if I'm an NFL GM, I'm very troubled by. After the game, they asked him something, and he said, basically, I just want to go home and cuddle with my dogs and watch Netflix or watch shows or something. And it's like, man, I don't know if that's the response you want from a guy that you're going to draft in the top 1 or 2 leading your franchise. I mean, that's just, I don't know, man. I just felt like that was a weird comment to make. And I just feel like their team's in shambles right now. Like, they are free falling. They haven't beaten anybody good this year. I think they continue that with Oregon. I think Oregon just stomps them and really proves a point.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. We can talk all day about Caleb Williams, the defensive coordinator, all this stuff. Let me just tell you something, man. I don't care if USC came into this game undefeated, okay? Oregon at home. Like you said, it's not like all of a sudden they're going to fire their defensive coordinator and all of a sudden everything's going to be great on the defensive side of the ball. I think Lincoln Riley did the guy a favor. His name's Grinch, right? Alex Grinch?
Yeah, Alex Grinch. Yeah.
He did him a favor, man. Because after what Oregon's about to do on the offensive side of the ball, the guy might not have ever gotten another job. And I'm talking community college. I'm talking high school football. Because if Lincoln Riley did him a favor.
The good thing is,
yeah.
Well, yeah, and the good thing is like, this was the wrong time, in my opinion, to make the move. He should have waited a week, because then he could have been like, okay, we just gave up 60 to Oregon. This guy's out. Whoever they play next, it's got to be a better performance than that. Now, like you said, I don't care who they bring in. It's not going to make that much of a difference. And now it's just going to be like, okay, was he really the issue? You know what I mean? So if it was me, I would have waited another week. But
that's what I'm saying. Lincoln Riley did the guy a favor, in my opinion. I think Lincoln Riley must, they must have a great relationship, because I think that him even holding on to him for this long, I think Lincoln Riley was just like, dude, I gotta make this change. Like, we're like, even though I think it's partly maybe, again, just my hunch tells me, again, maybe Lincoln Riley lets the other team score. I don't know. Maybe that happens. Maybe it doesn't. But Oregon's about to put up at least 45, and I want to take the over on this game so bad. But the difference between Oregon and a lot of these other teams that, Like, here's what people I don't think understand about Oregon when they just look at like the scores. When you watch them play, they're a run first team. Like they are running the ball. And then Bo Nix will get like, he'll make his plays or whatever, but they're going to run the ball down USC's throat. I think this game's going to be shorter because of it. I think that Oregon knows they can score whenever they want, but I don't think they're going to score as much as they can because they're just going to be like, you know what? Let's just control the game. Let's get out to an early start. Let's run the ball. Let's keep Caleb Williams off the field because the only chance USC has is Caleb Williams having just an absolute monster game. We've seen that other than Caleb Williams, like they don't really have anything else. Like this team does not have a lot of depth at all. And so it's been a long season. Like you said, they're in shambles. Oregon is ascending. Oregon is to me looking like the best, not that they are, but they're looking like they're the best team in the country lately. Man, this is going to be an absolute blowout. Like I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Like it's going to be 45-21. And the only reason it gets to 21 is because they let their foot off the gas a little bit to, maybe they take Bo Nix out halfway through the fourth quarter. I'm with you. I think this is going to be an absolute blowout. I'm taking Oregon minus 15. This is my lock of the week. I know I said I had another lock of the week, but I forgot this was on the main slate. This was the one. And, yeah, man, Oregon all day, minus 15, lock of the week.
All right, so let's get into our additional picks. So I'll do mine first.
I want to ask one last thing. Do you think that, how, and again, I want to just put this out there. I don't ever, the Grinch guy, I'm sure he got paid a lot. I don't know if has he always been a guy that's been with Lincoln Riley? Was he with Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma?
I think he was I think he was there at Oklahoma too. I think he went with him.
That's what I can't understand is like it must be a philosophy of Lincoln Riley's. Like that's the only explanation. Like how can you never address the defensive side of the ball? It's almost like it's not even important to recruit the defensive side of the ball. It's almost like he just wants to constantly have the best quarterback. And I think that phase is about because there's speculation now coming out that like, Caleb Williams is regressing and stuff. So I'm like you, like it's easy to kind of pile on USC right now, but the fact of the matter is they're just not a very good football team, and Oregon is a great football team. And I just think Oregon, again, I know I'm like repeating myself a lot, but I would be absolutely shocked if Oregon didn't just dominate this game from start to finish. Like it would shock me if this game was even close.
All right, so let's get to our additional picks. I've got 5 of them. First, I like Kansas minus 3.5 at home against Texas Tech. I just think Kansas was really impressive to me last week going to Ames, winning a night game. I know there was a controversial call in that one that could have turned it, but that's just a game that it's an easy look ahead spot after not look ahead, but kind of let down after the OU win. They were really impressive to me. I feel like that carries over, and I think they put it on Tech. Oklahoma State, another team, beat OU, their last bedlam for a long time. Who knows how long that's going to go. I feel like this is a spot where they could definitely have a letdown, but I don't think they do. I think that, I don't think USC or UCF is any good. So give me Oklahoma State minus 2.5. I got to keep rolling with it because it just hits every single week. Iowa, Rutgers, under 28.5. I don't think that they even break 20 in this game. At some point, you would think that Vegas would just be like, you know what, we're just going to make the number like 23 or 20 and just see what happens. And because these games aren't even close to going over. So I think this is the easiest. This is my lock of the week. Iowa, Rutgers, under 28.5. I also like Auburn plus 2.5 at Arkansas. I had to double check that because I was like, there's no way that Arkansas is really bad. And I'm not saying Auburn's great or anything, but we watched Arkansas play somebody. I can't remember who it was. And it was one of the worst games I've.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like when they're not playing well or when they look bad, they look terrible.
I think it was the Arkansas Mississippi State game. I could be wrong.
It was.
But they
No,
could
you're
not
right. It
even
was.
move the ball. Like, it was wild. Like, they could barely move the
We
ball.
had
but
the we had the underdog play for, I think it was over like 220 yards passing or something for KG Jefferson, and he was at like 80 at the end of the game. It was just, oh my god, it was so frustrating. And last game, I'm going back to the Big Ten. Northwestern, Wisconsin, under 42.5. I don't see in any world how this gets close to that. So again, those are my 5, and I feel really confident about those 2 unders for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy when that's your lock of the week is the over under Iowa.
Yeah, under 28.5.
Yeah, that's what's so crazy is that, like, yeah, I'm kind of,
I feel like that's the best play. I really do.
Yeah, and we call those bet it and check
Sucker
it later.
bets.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're definitely not
going
sitting
to watch the game. No.
No, definitely not.
All right, give me. I'll try to make this kind of quicker than normal. I kind of go a little bit too long sometimes, I feel like. So I'm going to make it as quick as I can. Give me Houston -2. I love that play. I think Houston's playing for a bowl game. I think Cincinnati just is playing for pride. But I think Houston at home -2. Give me that. This Oklahoma-West Virginia game intrigues me, man. And as much as I'm thinking, like, man, Oklahoma's going to come back out, win this game, I don't think Oklahoma's 2 touchdowns better than West Virginia. So give me West Virginia +13. I think Oklahoma wins the game, but I don't see Oklahoma just shrugging those 2 losses off and all of a sudden coming out and just playing. I think West Virginia always finds a way to cover these games. They're a team I really like to look at for value, and I feel like they're a pretty good football team, man. They're 6-3. They, like, I don't know. That line to me should have been like maybe 10 personally, but so give me that +13. This is one I love. This is the other one I was going to kind of look at for lock of the week if I didn't love that Oregon one so much, and maybe I should have picked this one because I love this play. Give me Washington State money line. Washington State has been struggling. They're not as good as I thought they were at the beginning of the year. They had a great start. They have not been playing well at all, but I still think Washington State is much better than Cal. And I really like them to win that game. I'm with you with Auburn. I'm going to add Auburn to my card as well. Did you take Auburn money line or just the +2.5?
Just +2.5, but I'll probably will make it a money line play.
Yeah,
let me just go ahead and make it money line.
No, I don't want you to sweat. I was just saying I'm going to take the.
No. The value's better at.
Yeah, I'll probably take the. Yeah, I'll get on that with you. I'll just go money line. I was going to go +2.5, but let's live dangerously. Let's go +2.5. And I got 2 more plays, but I want to end with my upset special of the week. Okay. The one that I just looked at that I wasn't going to add. I thought I was done, but I saw this one. Minnesota at Purdue. Minnesota has burned me twice this year. Both times I picked Minnesota, they've disappointed me. But I think Purdue is terrible. Give me Minnesota on the road, money line. It's basically a pick 'em. So give me Minnesota there. And I'm going to just go ahead and say I've already got a big upset here with Georgia losing this week. I think this is going to be a wild week of college football. The Texas game last week, with Texas being able to escape that win, something was like, okay, dude, it's about to get crazy in November. Like, I think November is going to flip the script on everything we thought this season was going to be and who was going to be there at the end of the season. I'm going to take Miami, Florida, money line, Florida State. Now, I know what you're thinking. Justin, you just said Florida State was the best team in the country. Well, guess what? Things change, okay? That's what
Miami's
the
second best.
Listen.
Yeah.
Miami, there's something. I have no reason. I'm just going to be honest with you. I have no reason to bet this. Like, I think Florida State is a much better team. I absolutely do. I think Miami, Florida somehow pulls this game off. I don't know why. It's just a gut check pick. It has nothing to do with analytics, has nothing to do with who's on the field. It's just a gut check pick. I think Miami, Florida is good enough if Florida State plays bad to pull off an upset win. And I think Florida State comes out and they don't play well. Give me Miami, Florida, and a shocker. I think number 1 goes down this week, and I think number 4 goes down this week, and everything changes.
Yeah, we always talk about teams that haven't really played anybody. If you take out the LSU win, who has Florida State really played? Their other 2 big wins were at Clemson, which that doesn't look as good now, and at home against Duke. And Duke is not, they're not anywhere to be seen in the top 25 either. So yeah, it's going to get crazy, and that's why college football is and will be, in my opinion, always superior. It's just you never know what's going to happen, and that's why I love the switch to 12 teams, because this would have been such a perfect year for 12, but we'll have to wait one more year and watch next year. It'll just be 2 dominant teams, and
yeah. And I got some risky picks this week, Chris. So I know it seems like I'm dominating the picks every week. I'm winning. I mean, what is it? 9-4 last week. Week before that, I'm hitting pretty much every lock of the week. I'm hitting. I know it just seems like I'm trying to rub it in and be like, man, I'm going to call these 2. The likelihood of both those games going the way I say is very little. But I truly believe that this is going to be a wild, wild week of football. If not, then I guess I'm wrong, and I'll just have to take a bad week. But I was going to actually add a few other plays so that way it protected me so I could still have a winning record. But nah, man, I'm going all in with these picks. Miami, Florida should actually be 7-2 if it wasn't for that just incredibly boneheaded decision to not knee the ball. I think this Miami Florida team's tough, man. And again, it's funny because I just said that Florida State was the best team in the country last week. But guess what? That's before they met Miami, Florida.
That was last week.
That was last week. A lot changes in a week, man.
Yeah. All right. So that's our picks. Hopefully Texas can not give us a heart attack this week. That was one of the most stressful sports experiences I've ever had in my life, was watching them against K-State. I still don't know how we pulled that off, but sometimes to have a special season, you have to have special things happen like that.
Yes.
So
yeah,
we'll see.
And that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. Every team is going to have to get, if we've seen it 100 times before. You just said it best. Every team has to do that. Texas had every reason to lose that. I honestly thought it was over. Texas found a miracle way to win the game. They're still alive. One of these teams is going to be met with the same thing, to where they have to make a play or they have to defend a play, or, honestly, they just have to get lucky. And I just think there's no way that the 4 teams at the beginning of the year, in my opinion, there's no way it can stay like this. Something's going to give somewhere. It has to. And if not, I mean, whatever. But November's a crazy month for college football, man. This slate of games is incredible. I can't wait for this Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah, there's good games up and down. All right, so thanks again, Justin, for joining me. Thanks for joining us, and let us know what games you're looking forward to this week, what games you have as potential upsets, and we'll see you next time.